Even though I haven't been raised in the UK my whole entire life, I think that's what's even more of a struggle. Like, I'm trying to figure out how I'm supposed to express my emotions in a place that doesn't really want you to really express as much as you can. So my journey with domestic abuse is something that I never really classified before as like domestic abuse. You know, you hear stories of abuse and then you think to your own, you're like, mine didn't really matter. But then the more I delved into it and the more like pain and the hurt that I harboured, I was like, there was obviously something that was very wrong in that situation. I met someone when I was 15 and I was besotted with this person. Madly in love, as you can imagine, and we dated on and off for 5-6 years. It started with just like name calling, and it would be online, and he would just like tell me that I was like a fat slut or something like that. And that was really hurtful, but every single time I would like always go back to him. So we sort of fizzled out a little bit, but then came back together at university. It started like really small, which was he knew that I had struggled with an eating disorder when I was younger, and so he knew that that was like my the thing that he could attack. And so it started with obviously like name calling, and nobody would ever be with me because I was disgusting and I was fat. And then it progressively got worse, and so like obviously the drug taking got worse, the verbal abuse started getting worse. Then it started getting a bit more physical. It all kind of muddles into one. There were times where he would watch me whilst I slept because he didn't trust me. There were times that I was made to sleep on the floor. I was probably at my peak where I was like really ill. I was at his place and we were having this big argument, but that was when he like fully smacked me in the face. And I spun and I hit the floor and I looked at him and I was like crying my eyes out. And his face was just in like shock, horror, and he just said nothing. And I stood there and I went, "You don't scare me." And I was like, that's it. That was like my pivotal point. And I remember walking out the house and leaving. I tried to see a therapist. The therapist turned me away because I wasn't serious enough, and that was at university. So I was asked on a scale of 1 to 10 how likely I was going to kill myself. And I said probably a 1, and she was like, "You're not like bad enough at the minute." After pouring my heart out to her for 10 minutes and saying how I needed help. And that was the first time I'd ever asked for help. And I just thought, why would I ever ask for help ever again? As women, we need to feel safe enough to be able to share our experiences. And when like big universities are telling you that you're not worthy enough of therapy, it's like, that no wonder there's a problem in our system. Enough is enough, like I can't do this anymore. I just don't know what to do with myself. And he said, you need to start forgiving. And at first I was like, what? Like, why would I ever forgive somebody for doing what they did to me? I started this whole entire process of like trying to really understand the why and the reasonings. My journey of forgiveness has been messy, as one can imagine. Forgiving him was the first step for me. And I mean, with anybody, you don't need to let them back in your life. You don't need to sit down with them. You don't need to have a conversation with them. You could write a letter, rip it up, do whatever you need, but you have to go through that process of letting them go, because if you harbour their emotions and their feelings, you allow their control and power to just stay with you for the rest of your life. The hardest point for me was forgiving myself. If you don't forgive yourself, then you are going to be constantly on a battle against yourself, and there is no way out. Like, you have to let it go. If you can't get out, then you're just going around in circles and you'll never grow, and life will never feel as good as it could feel. I felt so much shame and like guilt that over the years, as I started delving into like me and like trying to forgive myself, I then started speaking about it a lot more openly. The culture here is just, it's very much like what goes on behind closed doors stays behind closed doors. We are made to be polite. Women are supposed to be seen, not heard. If we were to like cause maybe a scene or an argument because we feel frustrated and we need to verbalize our emotions, we're the ones that are embarrassing. You know, it's that whole eye roll. Oh, she's at it again. You know, that sort of thing. And it's very British. I think it's so often that we, as women, we can get like gaslighted, and our emotions just aren't valid. We're not really taught how to reflect on ourselves or how to even understand our emotions. So I think now speaking about it is so much easier for me because I'm able to understand where certain things have come from, and then other women can also relate. So then I can sit down with other people, and I've done it recently, and they're like, that's how I felt. And I was like, I know, so we should talk about it more. I mean, to even begin to change our system, it needs to start in schools. Like, we need to normalize these conversations. We need to have these conversations. I write for people, but I also teach people how to write and tell their stories in a way. And as kids, we were never taught how to tell a story, and we were never taught how to tell our own. And as adults, we were never taught how to write a story or to tell our own. So there's a huge bridge that hasn't been filled. It starts from childhood. Like, I know in myself that because I moved around and I bounced around countries, I never really felt as if I had a home or a place that I could feel safe. I realised that later on, like, my home is me and my safety is here. So I need to look after this. So if we want to make sure the world goes right, like, let's start now at the little ones. You know, teach them how to self-love and express.
I just love how I've kept my socks on the whole entire time. How British of me.
I hope we're getting some of a shot of the socks.
Those British things I never done.